The women's division in WWE games has kind of gone all over the place. And for this year's WWE 2K22, I want to give you our predictions of what we will see on the women's side for this year's upcoming game. And that episode for you all is right now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Assemble. I'm Matt. Good to see you. Great to have you here on the show. Yes, we are going to talk about the women's division here on Assemble. I'm very excited. We haven't gone through this yet on the show. Give you some predictions, what we think we would see from Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Legends, all of that good stuff. If you guys are new here on the show, do me a favor, hit that like button. Helps the YouTube algorithm. On our way to 4,000 subscribers. It's bonkers. You're all amazing. Check out our retro wrestling playlist that we've got. We got Retro Wrestling Live, WWF No Mercy action in there, WrestleMania 2000, got a whole series, Let's Play series happening right now. It's very, very exciting. So the rosters are thin in real life. They're shrinking down and down and down and getting smaller and smaller every single day. But I actually think that the women's division and what we could see from the women's roster for WWE 2K22 could actually be pretty impressive. Here's why. I don't think 2K22 is going to be making the mistakes of the past. 2K20. I think they've learned from that game and what fans were angry about with, melting faces and, Becky Lynch's hair going like in and out around her body, things like that. But the other thing that I think upset a lot of fans was having multiple character slots for the same bloody superstar. Getting 4 character slots total for Charlotte in 2K20 to me was a real problem. It was trying to pad out a roster that frankly didn't really need it. And it showed that in 2K20, those were some of the deficiencies that it had overall as a game. It also bothered me to no end that every single star, whether it was male or female, they all had the same face every time you were going to select a different character. So if you did pick Charlotte, one of the 4 Charlottes, it's literally the same pose. It drove me nuts. And while there's been a lot happening with WWE right now, with stars being released, a lot of stars on the women's side have not. And in the last year and a half, 2 years, while the game has been developed, we have seen a lot of female legends come back from the past and been inserted into, Royal Rumble itself, making a lot of different appearances. For main roster talent, I don't think we'd see a lot of difference from years past. I think you're still gonna get Charlotte, Bayley, Sasha, obviously. Becky Lynch is gonna be massive in there with her The Man t-shirt and that whole design. Nia Jax, Natalya, Asuka, Rhea Ripley, all of the main stars will be there, obviously. Some of them that I do wonder if they are going to make it in time in terms of their character rebrand and everything. Stars like Alexa Bliss I find very interesting for this year's game. Bliss has gone through so many transformations of her character and what she physically looks like, her ring attire and everything over the last 2 years, going through transitions with The Fiend. She had her time as tag team champion with Nikki Cross at the time. We'll talk about Nikki in a second. And if the game had come out last year, we would have seen Alexa Bliss in her previous iteration as a tag champ with Nikki Cross. Now, if the game is staying relatively up to date with the happenings of WWE, we won't see that. It'll be very interesting and very telling if this game is going to be out of date if I do open up like the tag team slots and the tag divisions within the game and I see Nikki and Alexa set as tag team champions. But Alexa's interesting. I bring her up because of the amount of changes in her character and now going through this current iteration of, kind of The Fiend basically, and getting updated Trons, music, all of those things. So it'll be curious if Alexa Bliss actually gets the full update to her character for 2K22. What do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. Now, Nikki ASH, Nikki Ash, Nikki Cross, she's also one that is very interesting on this list. I hesitate that Nikki will actually get her new character in the game. This was such a recent change of her getting through this entire new transition. She's now Raw Women's Champion. It's all really awesome. But this change in her character, this complete 180 is very late in the game. And because typically these rosters are already ironed out and done by like June before the game releases in around October in the fall, I think it'd be hard pressed to see Nikki Ash actually get introduced in the game, and this is probably going to end up being one of the custom creations that we all have to do online, which is fine because they'll probably leave enough of the resources and everything in there to be able to make this happen. And the community creators out there are fantastic, but I don't think that we are actually going to see Nikki in this game in her current attire and current iteration. Now, one of the good things and one of the positives predictions that I have is that I think that the NXT women's division, the current crop of stars, I think the vast majority of them will actually make it in this year's game. I think that's also because the women's division on NXT is relatively slim, and so many of them were in last year's game or in 2K20's game, and I think that they would end up easily just making it over into the new game. They haven't had a lot of changes within their characters. I think that we can be pretty confident that the actual NXT women's roster, the majority of them are going to actually make it into the game. And then newcomers like Xia Li, Scarlett, Sarah, Raquel Gonzalez, the NXT women's champion, those have a relatively good shot in my eyes of actually making it into the game. And then you have kind of your main names, dominant names of the women's division in NXT, like Candice LeRae, Ember Moon, Dakota Kai, Io Shirai. Those will all make it in the game, in my opinion. Okay, the interesting one here is going to be the women's legends that we actually could get in this game, and what 2K22 does with this roster in terms of, quote, legends. It seems like with 2K20, it seemed like anybody and everybody that like worked in WWE in the past is like almost considered a legend, because they would put folks like Alicia Fox as a legend, or the different iterations of Charlotte as legend. But some of the obvious ones that I think are easy shoo-ins and candidates to be in this year's game are going to be Lita, Trish. I think we're going to get Molly Holly in there as well. I don't think we're going to get Ronda Rousey in this year's game. I'd be very, very hard pressed to see if we got that. And I thought if we did, we'd see more promotion around it. The Bella Twins are definitely going to be in there. Chyna, I think, will be in there. And now that we had her as big, prominent DLC for 2K20, she'll make it into the game. And I hope Chyna actually gets a couple of different attires to work with, going from her early years of DX, the ones with Eddie and things like that. I hope we get a couple of different attires to work with there. And where I think WWE could do a good job and 2K could do a good job of actually dipping their toe more into the actual legend side on the female side of things, I think that they could have some fun by actually bringing back, you know, Tori Wilson, Alundra Blaze, Michelle McCool. I think you could potentially see stars like Jillian come back into the game. Kelly could come back into the game. Eve Torres could be in there. I don't think that we would end up seeing AJ Lee in this game at all. Mickie James, because she was released not that long ago, I don't think that she'll end up being in this game either, as she's now over on Impact. But I think if they do all of this, that 2K22 could have probably one of the more impressive women's divisions, women's rosters in their games. We've seen this done in years past, but it would be really good to know if they can actually do a quality job with the entire women's roster. Give them alternate attires. Do not pad it out as giving them alternate attires, but giving them those extra character slots like they did in 2K20. But we've seen such great development within the women's division, the women's roster with WWE over the last few years. And I think stars like Becky Lynch, who are arguably the biggest ones and expected to be one of the biggest returns this year, I think you want to put that front and center. And I think you want to make sure that you're putting a lot of quality into the character models, the designs, the bloody hair physics in this game. Come on now. And by adding in a ton of the legends on that side with the current crop of stars that we have, you can get some really, really cool matchups. But let me know in the comments below, what women do you think that we are going to get for this year's roster? Who do you want in the game? What do you think is likely, not likely? Thank you so much for watching. I'm Matt here on Assemble. And as always, thank you all for assembling with us. See ya. We are